Hello and welcome to a basic tutorial on how to get the A10C up and running as quick as possible. Get up in the air, check out some stuff, beautiful Dubai scenery that I'm in love with. It's gorgeous. Wait till you see this. And the sun is setting on the west. It's going to be awesome. And we're going to fly around real quick and land at a different airport just southwest of Dubai International, which is where we're at right now on the ramp. Cold start. Here we go. Real basic. Doesn't take too much effort once you get the hang of it. Doesn't take that long, so long as I don't talk too much, right? There we go. We'll start with battery power. Right there. It is kind of hard to see because it's getting dark, and some of these areas are really, I can hardly tell what's going on, but give us a minute. We'll get things up and running. We'll put some lights on. Inverter to standby while we're there. Okay. Next we do a lamp test. Hold down this button. Make sure all the warnings and lamps work. Next is the fuel test. Make sure the gauges are doing what they're supposed to. And we have at least close to 6,000 pounds of fuel on board. After that, we turn on our oxygen supply, which is right there. And we also test the oxygen system. Hold down this button right here, and we get the warning that we're supposed to. And real quick, set our radios to transmit. UHF is set to main. At this point, we can close the canopy. Turn on the boost pumps in the engine fuel control management panel right here. These four switches are an absolute must to get going. Everything else really has to do with in-air refueling, which we're not going to concern ourselves with at this moment. Now we're ready to start the APU, the auxiliary power unit, that's going to allow, right there, this switch right next to the throttle, it's going to allow us to get the basic systems going and also give the power to get the big boys going. This guy on the left and this guy on the right. It's going to propel us through the air tremendously at very low speeds, because this is a really heavy, slow flying airplane, which is why it's really good at what it does. It has a really long loiter time on target and everything else. Wow. We're supposed to be monitoring the APU gauges. These two right here at the bottom right of the six-pack are going to display, it's hard to see, but what you're looking for is for the gauges to stabilize and not jump around. Obviously, this is in the green, this is at 100%, so we're good to go. The APU is up and running. Now, APU generator needs to be set to on, as well as the AC generators. They're gonna produce the power necessary for all the systems on the aircraft once the engines are up and running. At this point, we can hit left engine start, which is, it took me a while to figure this one out, because I use a CH Products HOTAS setup, which does not have a split throttle. and it does not have detents for off and idle power. There is a setting in your controls, I believe it's in engine management control systems, or engine control. There's literally a setting for engine start and engine stop for both left and right engines. And that is something you need to have mapped unless you have the Thrustmaster set up, the Thrustmaster Warthog setup, that is, that has the nice split throttle with detents that allow you to perform these functions right on your hotaz, which I do not have. Now it's time for us to put some interior lighting on so we can see what's happening in here. There you go. Look at that. Little floodlight. Everything's gonna look pretty lit up. It's getting kind of dark out. Alright. Left engine. We should have been monitoring the gauges this whole time to make sure that everything runs up to normal operating temperature, RPM, and pressure. On the left side of your 12-pack, these three are for the left engine, these three are for the right engine, which of course temperature, RPM, and pressure. At this point, the left engine's up and running. We can do the right engine. Hit the right engine start key or move from your off detent to your idle throttle detent if you have that capability. And you do have to wait for this to spool up. You see things are moving around. Look at that. And the RPM's coming up. You want to be in the green right here. Same with the oil pressure. Give it a minute. Once that's done, you can turn off the APU, the auxiliary power unit, as well as the APU generator. Yep, we're ready for that. APU right next to the throttle is off. Oh, that was making a lot of noise, wasn't it? And the APU generator is off. Okay. At this point, we're ready to get our avionics suite going. The CDU, the control display unit, is this whole thing right here. You get a full keyboard, a small display, and a few switches down here. The CDU switch right here turns all of that on. While we're here, the EGI, very important, get it turned on. Okay, now that's going. Next step, we'll turn on both the MFDs, the multifunction displays, the left and the right, by clicking twice on this knob right here at the bottom left corner of each of them. Then we go down here and we flip on the CICU switch to off and on. Now the IFFCC switch is a three-way switch. We click it once to put it in the middle setting position, which is test, which is going to prompt us on the HUD to run our pre-flight bit test. And it says yes. We want to say yes on our UFC, upfront control. UFC, upfront control unit, yes. We hit enter. And it's going to run a basic systems test on the aircraft. On our left MFD now, it says DTS upload. This is going to allow for uploading all of the flight data, the the weapons management systems, weapons loadout, and everything else. And we want to hit load all right here. And it only takes 15 to 20 seconds. Not a big deal. You'll notice
altitude.
the little dots next to all these separate load options disappeared. Once they reappear, that means that data's been uploaded. There you go. Now we can set our yaw and pitch trim assist systems to on. While we're here, the TO trim button, you hold that until you see that light come on. That sets our takeoff trim. Now we're loaded. On the right MFD, go to CDU, which is really a copy of the screen down here on the CDU. It just gives you an easier access to it. And we want to go to nav, which is right here. Hit that. And while we're at it, look at that. The pre-flight bit test is complete. Our little arrow says exit, and we're gonna hit enter to exit. And now we have to scroll down the menu to hit exit again. At this point, we can flip our IFFCC switch to the on position, because that was it. The test. This is the test. The IFFCC, our HUD, will be operational now. Look at that. We got the ladder, the pitch ladder, and waypoint information. This is going to be your airspeed. This is your AGL, above ground altitude. We should uncage and set our standby attitude indicator. Literally just rotate this knob until you get wings level with the horizon. Just a backup system. Very important to know where you're at relative to the ground. At this point, let's get the JTRS switched on. We might as well hit the TGP as well. It's our targeting pod. Let's take a look at that. We'll hit the TGP button, and it says not timed out. Well, that thing requires a little bit of time to spool up to get there's gyros and everything else floating around in there. They need time to get adjusted. So once you get that going, we'll actually be able to use it once we're up in the air. Yeah. We'll set our navigation mode to EGI, which is all these things down here. That's a whole different lesson and a whole nother tutorial on how to properly use your navigational systems, but this is basically where it all happens. Most of it anyway, besides setting waypoints. So go to EGI. That is the GPS assisted navigational system. Alright, and this seems like things are happening over there. On the left MFD, we want to go to TAD, which is Tactical Awareness data page. And if we set this as SOI, SOI, or Sensor of Interest, then we can manipulate zoom, and we can slew our little crosshair around and set different points basically on this interactive map almost as a point of interest. You could slew your crosshair down to say another airfield or an area of interest that was not planned in the mission that you want to be able to fly to or slew your targeting pod to. Very important. And yep, zoom in just enough to see the map. At this point, we're almost ready to go, except for a couple of very important things that I want to mention. See, there's our stick, there's our throttle. They do obstruct the view of certain switches a little bit, but as well, two very important ones that need to be set before we even get to taxiing are behind the throttle, and they're especially hard to see with the throttle in the idle position. One of them being the EAC arm, which it didn't arm, and this is going to basically enable the autopilot system for us. And the radar altimeter, which is also a very important part of the radar system, without which it won't work. Let's try this again. Yep, won't do it. Does it to me every time. Later down the road, we're going to come back to that and hit that switch again, and I guarantee you that it will stay in the arm position, and then we'll be able to use our autopilot. If that switch does this, you will not be able to use an autopilot. Anyway, it's kind of important to notice that it's really not, I don't know, I haven't seen that in any of the tutorials. I hope this helps some of you out a little bit. It definitely took me a little while to figure this out on my own. A couple steps. The anti-skid switch should be set to on. That just basically just while you're taxiing around and landing and takeoff. Kind of like an ABS in a car, I guess. I don't know. And nose wheel steering, we set with a pinky switch on our stick right here. Now hopefully you have a somewhat decent hot ass setup. If you don't, you should invest in at least a basic setup in order to play this sim. Really not a keyboard and mouse kind of a game. I'll just reset my track IR, which is also very helpful. Situational awareness, real easy. Let's arm the ejection seat in case something bad happens. And we're almost ready to go, except for, wait a minute, we need to set our flaps to takeoff position. This is the flap deflection indicator. The actual flap switch, if you're going to use your just mouse to click it, it's right click to go down and left click to go back up. There's only 3 settings. Full up, 0 degrees, no flaps. 7 degrees down for takeoff, and then if you click it once more, that would be 20 degrees for landing. So, got our flaps set. We're going to check our control surfaces. Left and right. Kind of hard to see, but to the rudder and the elevator, you can kind of tell it's moving, so that's the best we can do without breaking immersion and going into, external view. God forbid. We're also going to make sure that our speed brakes work and they are fully retracted, because you certainly don't want that when you're taking off, trying to gain speed and altitude. And that should be it. I think we're ready to roll. We're going to ask the ATC, air traffic controller, for, do you mind if we get out of here real quick? And it's going to say pretty much nothing. Request startup.
Springfield 1-1, request startup.
Every time you do this, they don't even reply back to you. At least so far in my experience. Now, nose wheel steering is on. So, if you're fortunate enough to have proper rudder pedals with your HADA setup, you can use those to steer the aircraft. When nose wheel steering is turned off, then your rudder pedals just control your actual rudder on the vertical stabilizers, which requires some serious airflow to be able to move the aircraft. And when you're really slow on the ground like this, it's almost completely ineffective. So you're steering this like a car right now with the nose wheel steering. And let's find us somewhere to get onto the runway. Let's taxi down a little bit more. So with the nose wheel steering, it's very useful at taxi, low speed. Once we get rolling down the runway for a takeoff run, we need to turn that off. Just right around 70 knots indicated airspeed, where the actual rudder on the vertical stabilizers becomes effective, and the nose wheel steering becomes less effective as the weight is taken off of the front of the aircraft, and it's not making, it doesn't have as much traction. And it's also, the faster you go, the more easier it is to screw up with that and get the thing just all cattywampus and crash it. So you notice that I stopped short. That's what you're supposed to do in real life. Before you actually taxi onto a runway, you stop short on a clearly marked line, like so, and automatically we have a prompt to request takeoff with the ATC, and we're gonna do
Springfield 1-1, request takeoff.
Just for the SNGs, and you know they're not gonna say anything back to us, but whatever. So right there, this is where you do your last pre-takeoff checks. Everything looks good. Yeah, we got flaps. Our systems are up and running. At least the basics for us to fly. I'm gonna do a quick check the control surfaces again, and we're gonna pretend like we got the clearance to position and hold on the runway, which means you position yourself for takeoff and you hold that. You stop and you wait for clearance to actually take off, in case there's another aircraft that's taxiing across the runway or what have you. Or maybe the ATC controller is having a donut and a coffee and they just need a couple of minutes to relax before they let you do your thing. But here we go. We are ready. We are going to run our throttle up to 90%. We're going to check the gauges. Everything's normal. And we're going to give it full power and let go of the toe brakes. And we're going to use our pedals to steer the aircraft down the center line of the runway. And now we're going to turn off the nose wheel steering, and we're pretty light, so at about, we're ready to rotate. Rotation speeds are, they vary depending on the weight of the aircraft at takeoff, depending on how much fuel, how much ordnance you're carrying. So, gear up, obviously if we have a positive rate of climb, and flaps up. The takeoff speed, the rotation speed when you start pulling back on the stick varies depending on the weight of the aircraft. We are super light. We have a targeting pod, and and
Pull up, pull up.
a couple of sidewinders. Not a big deal. But you're full up with bombs and everything else. You're going to need a longer takeoff run, and you're going to want to rotate at probably much higher speed. I believe you, if you're super light, you can
Pull up,
rotate
pull up.
probably about 120. You get real heavy, you start getting into the 140, 150, 160 range even. Oh, here we go. This is Dubai.
Pull up, pull up.
Let's check out the famous part of it.
Pull up, pull up.
Big man-made island slash super hoity-toity resort just in front of us. Love flying around this place. It's pretty neat. There's a lot to look at. The entire map itself, the Persian Gulf map, it's a DLC. It's, obviously it's desert, so there's not a whole lot going on, but there's enough. Dubai itself, the coastal areas,
altitude.
you have Iran. Across the Gulf. Got some mountains down south. Looks good. The only issue that I noticed here is really that I tried shooting at some of these big ships, whatnot, and they don't seem to take any damage. Crazy. He's built this from scratch.
Pull up, pull up.
That's their idea of land reclamation. We'll just take a quick look at this little... I don't know what that is.
Pull up, pull up. Pull up, pull up.
Main office. It's where you sign up for the mortgage. Right there, the little palace looking thing, I guess. I don't know. Anyway, we're gonna head a little bit down the coast and land
Pull up, pull up.
at another major airport. Get our nav point set to get us close to the approach. Really, you got to try a low-level flight through this city. It's gorgeous, absolutely gorgeous. I got another video with that. Right now, our goal is, now that we're lucky enough to be flying, we want to make sure that we know how to land this properly. We're going to do just that. And I don't want to get too high or too fast, really.
Pull up. Pull up.
And there it is. And my autopilot did not kick in. Look at that. I forgot to click that again. Let's try it. Let's hit autopilot. There it is. Now we're good. Well, I see the airfield. Or airport rather, so I think we can just do a straight in. Yeah, we got those fancy air brakes. We can slow down plenty. The wrong way. Retract. Now we're down below 200. We can drop our landing gear and set the flaps to 20 degrees. I'm still a little too fast for flaps. They didn't even go down. Here we go. Not going to do any kind of pattern. Just heading straight in. Get lined up with the runway. Get nice and slow. Doing about $150, and we want to be significantly slower than that right before we flare above the runway touchdown. We want to be probably about 120, as light as we are, maybe even less with full flaps.
Altitude. Altitude.
And I guess it was 130. It's telling us that we're spot on right now. 124. And we're going to level out and flare a little bit. And nice and gentle. And our toe brakes and our speed brakes. Get this thing slow as quickly as possible. Now, controlling the. Yep, it's all about the toe brakes right now. And now that we're nice and slow, below 70 knots, we can do our nose wheel steering, turn that on, and we can steer the aircraft with the front nose gear without using the brakes. And we're in good shape. We'll taxi over out of the way somewhere. While we're doing that, we can start shutting things down. Really not supposed to, but you want to speed up the process without breaking the immersion of just hitting the escape button. Which, come on, this sim is all about immersion. You're not doing these things just, you know, get up in the air quick and shoot stuff left and right. This is a sim. You want to play with all the aircraft systems. You want to learn it. Get satisfaction out of learning these things, and it's really not that difficult. For it might be it might seem daunting for a beginner who's not really, who hasn't played a lot of flight sims before is not familiar with the basics of flying an aircraft, but it's pretty awesome. Some things that might seem tedious to people are actually what, you know, they really make this sim really great. There's no other sim that's this detailed. All the avionics, weapon management systems are absolutely incredibly detailed, and I'm assuming they're realistically as well. So we're just gonna find us a little spot to park this thing and shut everything down. Let's make sure, yeah, we can retract our speed brake. We can put our flaps back up to 0 degrees. And let's pull up right here. Now let's see, what can we turn off? TGP, don't need that. We're not targeting anything. Our trim panel, we can knock that off. Shush. Let's open that canopy. So, pretty much going backwards. Turn off radios. Oh, we never even bothered with the countermeasure system, which should be part of your startup checklist when you're trying to go up in the air and fight. Oxygen off. CGI off. All these are off. Master caution, shush. But really nothing too critical here that we can mess up. Let's get behind those throttles. Fucking able to get there. Boom. Radar. Altitude sensor off. The lights, whatever. No one cares. Basically, hit that left engine shutdown button, which gets you past the detent. Oh, would you shush? Gauges are going limp. Right engine shut down. Okay. Oh, would you stop already? Jeez. Goosebumps off. Okay. We still have battery power, which we're about to turn off shortly. Would you stop? Every time you click something, you get master caution. Alright, here we go. AC generator power off, inverter off, main battery switch off. Now you can't say nothing to me anymore. That's it. We're shut down. Not a big deal. A little bit of practice. A little bit of... Yeah, you gotta study it. You know, you gotta make yourself a checklist or look one up online. There's there's a lot of information available. There's the flight manual that comes with the module, the A10C module, which is quite different from the A10A that's free with DCS World. This is it. This is much better. There's no MFDs really. There's hardly clickable cockpit. This is what you want to start with if you really want to learn the avionics and the navigational systems and the weapon management systems. This is the way to go. That's why all those modules, you know, it seems a little crazy that, you know, you got to pay, you know, 60, 70 bucks for one airplane in a game, but when you look at the level of detail, not just visually, but the interactivity of being inside the cockpit and being able to literally click every switch and every button in the cockpit, as well as a detailed simulation of all the data and weapon management systems and navigation, you're starting to see the value in buying one of those add-on, well, not add-on, they're called modules for a reason. You know, it takes a really long time to get familiar with one certain type of an aircraft and the certain types of systems that it has. It really is, you know, if you want to immerse yourself in this world, you pick an aircraft that you want to really get excited about learning, and you work on it. And it takes a long time, and you know, that 60 to 70 bucks is going to last you probably at least 6 months or more, because you never know, you might really enjoy it and end up flying it for a long time. And then once you learn one, it gets a little bit easier, but they're all a little bit different, a lot different, some of them. But it really doesn't get any better than this. Well, I appreciate you watching this. I really made this video as kind of a self-help, just to remember the things that I screw up on my startups and what makes it not work when I'm up in the air. What did I forget to flip on? What system? What does this really do in the end? Like, you can say IFFCC, it means nothing to you, right? Like, you know, even if you try to remember the what it actually stands for. But hey, look, IFFCC switch. You hit it to test, you get your bit test up here. You run the bit test. You're ready to hit the IFCC to on position. Okay. If you forget to flip your DGP switch on, your targeting pod is not going to work. Where's that dog? This guy right here. Okay, things like that. The more you play with it, the more you kind of figure it out and you remember things. It's really muscle memory. But if it happens to help someone besides myself, because it certainly helps me every time I make a video like this, you're welcome. Enjoy. And please, you know, if you like it, give me a thumbs up. And I'll keep making them as I progress through this simulator myself. The more I learn, you know, I'll make more videos, and I'll try to explain the things that got me hung up on. You know, I couldn't get it to work. You know, I'm trying to drop a bomb, and it's not even. You know, I can't even get the CCRP to register or whatnot, or I'm trying to lock a Maverick missile on a target, and I'm hitting weapon release button and nothing's happening. What's going on? That's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna try to find those little sticky points, you know, the little critical little detail, the minutia of it that you miss, and I'm gonna try to point those out and make videos about that. So we'll see how it goes. So far, so good. I'm loving it. I hope you do as well. See you next time.